as you get older in life and you're making money, fun is I'm taking my family on this amazing vacation. You know, maybe it's historic. Maybe I'm going to go take them to DC and look at all the monuments and that kind of thing, right? So sacrifice when you're younger,
Absolutely,
a bit of those weekends that you think it's, the most important thing in your life, that you make this party, and it's not obviously, now. You mentioned a minute ago about mentors, and I think it's really important I think probably if your parents aren't really leading you down the path of that way, when you become a young adult and you always want to, like, hey, I'm gonna do my own thing. I don't need mom and dad, right? It's like natural. Like, let me figure this out, mom and dad.
Sure,
but I think it's really important that if you're not ready to listen to mom and dad because you've been there long enough, that you get a mentor. And you'd mentioned that you've had a couple of mentors.
Yeah.
Share with the people out there listening. I think some people are afraid to get mentors because maybe they get scolded of what they've been doing, right? And a mentor is going to be real with you, right? Have your mentors been real with you?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so understanding, but the mentor is there to help, right? To hopefully put you on a path of the conversation that you have. And we all have different paths, right? Share with the audience the value that you got out of the couple of mentors that you've had.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, and you don't have to necessarily label them, I don't think, but just to have either one person that you maybe want to emulate, or you look at somebody and you're like, that's where I want to be, later on in life. It can be personal, it can be professional, it can be older, it could be a peer. I would probably recommend to people to just reach a little bit farther outside of your comfort zone, of just maybe somebody that is on a similar path, whether it's in business, maybe they're in a different department, but maybe they're a step or two higher, or even if they are on the same level, but somebody that you maybe want to make an alliance with and just say, hey, I want to understand what you're learning and how you're viewing things. That way I can take that perspective, kind of be a sponge, soak it all up, and then I can make my own decisions. On the personal side of it, I think that somebody that's not your parent is very influential and important, because people don't like listening to their parents, especially at a younger age. And so if you can have somebody that's not necessarily molding you, but somebody that you can just go to as a sounding board, some advice, absolutely, I'd recommend just getting some other perspectives, or somebody that you just feel comfortable talking to on a personal level. Hey, I'm thinking about doing this. This is something that I've considered. What do you think? Even if it's just somebody to talk out loud, where it's one thing to have your own thoughts and your own perspective, and you think about things and you really want to sit down and know yourself. I think that's important, but to verbalize it and then get some of that, like you said, constructive criticism, some of that feedback, some things that may be negative that a lot of us, we don't want to admit to ourselves. Or even when your parents say it, then it's just, you immediately just get frustrated, you kind of shut down. But it's somebody else that maybe you'll take that information and you'll value it. I think on the professional side of it a little bit more, obviously somebody that can help mold you for that path. When you do say, okay, that's kind of where I want to be like them, maybe reach out to either that person or somebody along the way that just says, what did you do to get to where you are, that I can make sure that I take the right steps and I don't have to take one step forward, 3 steps back to end up getting there, right? You're going to make mistakes. You can't be afraid to make mistakes. You're not going to try and find somebody to get you there quicker. It's not about just cutting corners. It's about making those relationships along the way, because in whatever the business is, whatever your aspirations are, I think that it's going to come to a point where you're going to need somebody that's not just in your corner, but for somebody that can vouch for you and say, I know that they did the right things because they did this, and then it's going to speak for itself. So when you're doing your business side of it, you can't be afraid to put in the work, take those extra training courses, do those extra little learning things, go and shadow somebody, ask for an internship, go and just reach out to another department to get some other perspectives. I think a lot of times people are just afraid. Maybe they get a little bit too much in their comfort zone, and they get somebody who's kind of that yes man. They're going to tell you, oh, you're doing the right things. Oh, you're doing so well. I'm so proud of you. But you also need that person to say, you could be doing a little bit more, or have you thought of trying this as well? Right. And you'd be surprised at how much those pushings will help you to figure out a little bit more about yourself, or to take you maybe in another path that you never even thought was available.
Well, you bring out so many great points, and it just gets me thinking that, and I had a couple of mentors also, but do you feel that, again, maybe as, we're men here, and the women that are out there, that some people are just afraid to reach out to get a mentor because of maybe ego, they're embarrassed or they're afraid to ask for help kind
Yeah.
of thing. You know what I mean?
And like I
Because
said, I think that's why you also don't need to label it. I don't think you have to go to somebody and say, hey, listen, I was looking for a mentor. You're somebody that I just really admire and respect. And I've watched you from a distance. And, I would love the opportunity to sit down with you and maybe ask some questions, right?
right,
That's one way to do it. And some people are just afraid to go and have those conversations. Maybe if you're a front desk agent and you're not going to go and walk into the vice president's office and just say, hey, can I talk to you for a few minutes? But also, it doesn't have to be somebody, like you said, necessary that you have that conversation with. I have a person in my head that I've never once said it to them or really to other people about, but it's always somebody that I've just said, when I make a decision in life, whether it's business, whether it's a decision at work, an actual competent decision, or a relationship building aspect, or a training class that I attended, I thought in my head, is that something that this person would do? Is that somebody that I want to emulate and be like? Not necessarily to them or have the conversation, but just from a distance of knowing yourself and pushing yourself. It's a little bit more of that humility, that discipline, that knowing yourself, and also learning a little bit about yourself and saying, this is who I want to be. It's integrity,
right,
just saying, I don't need to go to somebody and say, I'm putting myself out there. What if they say, no, I don't have time for you? Or maybe they don't look at you in that same light as you look at them. And so
right,
now you're afraid of
right.
that rejection, which is very possible, especially at a younger age. People are very afraid of that. Public speaking, I know, is one that's always been very uncomfortable for people. And so they may not want to go out and they don't have the right words to say, to articulate, to sell themselves to somebody else at that point in their career, that when they're just getting started. I think that it's important to have maybe both. Have somebody that you look up to and somebody that you're chasing after, somebody that maybe you want to be, that you're not necessarily having conversations with. But also, when you find yourself in that position where you're like, I want to have that business conversation, I think I'm ready. Start small. It can be another peer, it can be your direct supervisor, and maybe just as simple as on a lunch break, just going with somebody and just saying, hey, do you want to have coffee? Do you want to have this? What did you think about that? And just pick their brain enough to where now you get to know their personality, you get to know their insights a little bit, and now you can have those catered conversations later on where you say, hey, listen, I'm really thinking about trying to get to the next step. I know that you've looked at things a similar way as me because we've talked about it. Can you help me get there? Right. So make it a little bit more fluid
Right.
as opposed to just, here's what I want to do. I need your help to get me there. Or, here's what I want to do. I don't know how to get there. Can you just tell me what you did? Right. It's not an interrogation. It's more of it's a relationship.
Have you found yourself being a mentor to someone? Has someone came to you and said, "Hey,
Yeah.
T,
Yeah, at work, I've had a couple of coworkers that have come to me and just said, "Hey, can I sit with you for an hour? Can I shadow you, see what you do as far as your discipline, your organizational skills? Listen to a couple of conversations, walk me through a business decision, and see what you look at." On the personal side of it, I've had quite a few people, luckily, that I've been in a position that, I've been able to do some other things that some other people want to be able to do. And so I've been able to share some of that knowledge on the personal side to say, here's what I did, here's what I sacrificed, or here's how I went about it. Little tips and tricks that it just helped me along the way. And if I can just share it with one person and you see that light bulb go off and they're like, man, how come I haven't been doing that? Then it's also rewarding for me as well as for them. So absolutely, I've had it multiple times.
So if you like this clip and you want to watch another one, click right here. If you want to watch the whole podcast episode, then go ahead and click right here. Okay? Do me a favor. If you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe. And if you want to hit the notification bell, you'll get notified every time we release a new video out for you, whether it's the clip or the whole podcast. So hope you get a lot of value, and I'll see you guys on the next one.